Okay, so I would like to share my opinion about a topic that in the Maori community, in the Maori world, there will be probably a range of opinions and attitudes about this. I'm certainly not claiming that mine is right or better, but it is something that's been troubling me for a while. And let's see what other people, what you may think about this. But it's this idea of taking photos and urupas. Urupa, for those who don't know, is a Maori word for cemetery, or wahitapu, as we say up here in the north. All right, people taking photos, filming at funerals, taking photos with their loved ones, like the headstone of a loved one. It's getting really, really common. Not only is it getting common that people are taking the photos and videos, but there are naturally, as we do these days, sharing them on social media, they're popping up on Facebook, and I'm sort of torn. I'm torn about it in some ways, and then I'm quite clear in others. Is that I get the motivation for this is usually, it's out of love, it's out of aroha. The idea that you would, spend time with the loved one and their memory, really. In the wahitapu is the motivation is positive, so I don't feel anger or sort of any judgment of the people, but equally in traditional Maori kind of view is there's something tapu or sacred around these places, well, very much around these places, and our behaviors and the things that are considered permissible and not can be quite strict. Now, I'm no custom police or anything, or tikanga police or anything like that, and my knowledge is what it is too. It's not very deep and extensive, and I certainly can't claim to be an expert on this, but this idea of taking photos in cemeteries, at funerals, it makes me uneasy. It makes me feel uncomfortable. And when I see it on Facebook, if I'm scrolling down and people are sort of like there smiling, taking selfies or group photos in cemeteries at the headstone, at the graves of their loved ones, I feel strange. Now, these customs may differ between tribes and areas, so I'm not making a blanket sort of judgment over everything. I'm just sharing my general opinion. Some of my opinion is based on my interpretation, at least, of tikanga, but the other part is more personal. So in tikanga, the world of the dead belongs with the world of the dead, so to speak, and the world of the living is the world of the living, and the two are respected as separate entities. So when we start photographing things in cemeteries and graveyards, and then especially in the modern age with social media, sharing it around, it's a blurry area. My biggest concern is not the perceived breach of custom or traditional culture. I mean, that's one thing, but the real thing is that the discussion, it's not really being had about it. Like, not to my knowledge. I get this really strong feeling that this is just the modern digital world. We've all got cameras in our pockets in the form of phones and whatever, tablets and whatever, and we're taking photos of things constantly, and I do that too. I love technology. Here I am making this video with technology on social media, so I'm not judging that either, but where our tendency to photograph and film and document everything, no matter how important or frivolous, is even encroaching into cultural things, which, again, culture, I don't have a strict, this is how it was in the old days and it should never change. I don't really feel like that. What I think is culture is a living, breathing, evolving thing, and that if we're going to make significant changes in things that are sacred and things that are tapu or things that are important, that's doable, that's possible, but we should have the discussion, is my point. If we don't have the discussion and technology is forcing the change, that makes me uneasy. It makes me uneasy because what else can it change? What else is just going to happen? And there are apologists for this too. I've had this discussion with a few people, and some will just say it's the way the times have changed. technology is there. We all use it. It's part of our lives. Get over it, kind of thing. And I get it. I mean, I do understand that position. And my thing, again, I restate, is not that the change is happening. That's not my biggest problem. My biggest problem is that the discussion isn't being had. The kōrero is not being had widespread, even just within families or hapu, iwi, tribe. This is tribes. To say, hey, do we all agree that there's a change? Right, we're going to have this change. Everyone's okay with it? Yeah, cool. Or a majority, or however you could do it. Let's move, let's change. And therefore, customs change. But to think that digital technology is changing culture, without anyone stopping to even think about it, that makes me uncomfortable. Of course, there is no actual overlording governing body that can lay down the decree that that culture has changed. Culture doesn't work like that. Culture is just as people, as individuals, families, communities. So I'm not even against families having the discussion amongst ourselves, themselves, and then making a decision. This is how we behave. This is what we're comfortable with. And then the next family down the road might have a completely different view, and their interpretation of culture or tikanga or rules and correct behaviours is different, and I'm cool with that. But yeah, how do you feel about technology? I guess I'm talking primarily to the Māori community, but in saying that, your culture too might have traditional do's and don'ts or rules or guidelines around photography and filming around funerals especially, or even just photography and filming around any sort of sacred event in your family and community life. Are you having discussions about it? Are you having arguments about it? Are you all good with it? Do you just, are you quite modern with your thinking and that is what it is, just let it go? Or do you think that it needs to be made more clear? I'm happy to read people's comments or have discussion for or against to see how you feel about it. Okay, thank you. Kia ora.